This past week, Google dropped the Pixel 10 series, which is honestly an update that played it safe, focusing on refinements rather than all new groundbreaking features. And this one, frankly, also had the weirdest launch event I've ever seen. And it was literally hosted, and I put that in quotation marks, by Jimmy Fallon. And then there were a bunch of other supposedly famous people there, but I didn't recognize a single one of them except for Steph Curry, Giannis, and the Jonas Brothers. But hey, there were like 10 of them. Without getting too specific, this honestly felt more like a typical episode of The Tonight Show that just happened to have some phones jumbled in, rather than a real phone launch event. And honestly, aside from Google's bank account probably being in the water right now, Jimmy honestly looked like he really didn't know anything about what he was seeing or doing.
We're going to talk about tensor chips. We're going to talk about IP numbers.
Like, he acted super surprised at everything getting presented, which, if I were Google, I wouldn't want that guy to be the host, again, I put that in quotation marks, of this event. Add on to that the super cringy jokes, and I think you can say this is one for the books. Just not in a good way. And it's kind of weird to talk about a phone event and just now get into the phones, but I guess that's just the way it is this time around. So let's just talk about some random upgrades that came to the top of my head first. The biggest of which is definitely Pixel Snap, which is Google's response to MagSafe 5 years later. Or should I say 5 years late. And yeah, I know it's usually Apple that's late to these types of features, but I feel like this was one of the few that Google should have added a long time ago, but hasn't put in place until now. It seems nice, and I'm glad it's finally here, but there's just one really weird thing, which is that all Pixel 10 phones are getting Qi 2, while the largest Pixel 10 Pro XL offers Qi 2.2, which has faster charging speeds of up to 25 watts. I'm wondering why they didn't bring this to the smaller Pro, but regardless, I'm glad they finally added magnets and accessories for the Pixel. We also got a new Tensor G5 chip, which is the first Tensor chip not developed by Samsung, but rather by TSMC. And while the rumors suggested a much needed improvement, it was just another more than solid bump up by 30% in terms of CPU performance. So yeah, still far behind the A18 and the iPhone 16 and the Snapdragon 8 Elite in most Android flagships. And guess what? According to benchmarks, it's even worse than the Pixel 9 in the GPU department. So yeah, we're still playing catch up with Google. Of course, not that it really matters to the average person using their phones for texting and social media like you and me, but for the gamers out there, sorry, take one for the team this time. We've also finally got an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, which should be a lot faster for unlocking, and a new telephoto camera for the base Pixel 10, which is a 5x zoom module. And while this is cool and awesome, it's only 10.8 megapixels, and the quality of the main and ultra-wide cameras have gone down too, from one 58 megapixel wide camera and a 48 megapixel ultra-wide camera module to a 48 megapixel module and a 13 megapixel module, respectively. And I know megapixels aren't everything, so sadly, they've also reduced the main camera sensor size from a nice top-of-the-line 1/1.3 inch sensor to a bottom-of-the-line 1/1.95 inch sensor. This means not only is the resolution going down, but so will the brightness of your shot. I don't think I can even recommend these cameras more than the Pixel 9's cameras, because at the end of the day, you are still using the main camera module the most. And while we can eye the base model iPhone 16 for not even having a telephoto and yet having similar resolution wide and ultra-wide sensors, that never even had those in the first place. And let's be real, they're Apple. You can more or less hope for a telephoto on the base model, and they never give you one. Google's just blatantly worsening the sensors here, so I'll just say I'm more than disappointed in them this time. The Pro and Pro Folds cameras remain mostly the same, but something that is different camera-wise are the new AI features. Google was always a software company, and they're not planning on putting the brakes on that anytime soon. So let's dive into some of those features, starting with something I personally wouldn't use called Camera Coach. And even though I did get your hopes down just by saying that, the concept is actually pretty cool. That said, the execution is pretty bad. Okay, so the concept is exactly what it sounds like. Yet another AI helper. But this one lets you take better photos without even needing to edit them, because it's literally offering a hand with your composition. Something you simply can't change in the photo if you still want it to be called a photo and not some AI slop. But looking at some examples from YouTubers like Mr. Who's the Boss or even Google's live demo itself, the suggestions it gives aren't all that good, and I'm sure that even me, a novice photographer, could get better shots than what it suggests. But of course, you can't tag the letters AI onto the photo making process without the post-production included. So this year, we got 2 new photo editing features as well. And it all starts with a pro-exclusive feature, ProRes Zoom, which can actually get you to a usable photo at 100x zoom using a whole lot of regeneration of lost quality with AI. But unlike earlier with Camera Coach, are you even allowed to call this a photo anymore? Google does give you a different version without the processing, along with one with the processing. But everything feels so automatic, as if you really captured that fake moment. And this stuff is only gonna get better as time goes on. And then the other feature is straight up magical. You can literally type or speak something to yet another AI assistant to make any changes in your photos. And I mean, after years of them stacking all these AI features on top of each other, like Magic Eraser and Reimagine, it seemed like an obvious next step, considering we had a whole Gemini LLM to do it with. But this doesn't change at all how cool this feature is, despite me barely ever needing to edit my photos. You can literally describe something like, say, make the sky bluer and remove the cars in the front, and it'll just do that. I don't think this needs elaboration. And it's not just a Pixel 10 thing, it's a Google Photos thing. So you can try it out too. It's a sick feature. Google, literally the last thing now that we're asking for is video editing. You guys got this. I believe in you. We also got 2 new AI features. One of these being a feature almost exactly like Samsung's Now Brief called the Daily Hub. And on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I never use this feature at all, and 10 being my life depends on it, I'd probably give it a -1. Like, literally guys, that's how useless it feels to me. There's not one single chance or circumstance where this would actually be of slight use. And let's be real, if I wanted to see a certain review of something on YouTube, I just turn on my notifications. If I wanted to see the weather or my calendar, I just put it on a widget on my lock screen. It just feels so unnecessary and gimmicky. Now the other one has potential, and I say potential because I don't think the level of helpfulness is quite there yet. It's called Magic Queue, and the idea is that when you're texting or calling someone and the person on the other side asks something, it'll automatically bring something up based on context from other apps, if you allow permission to those apps, such as Calendar. It seems like there's room for improvement for how good the suggestions are, but I can definitely see how it'll grow in the future. And yeah, that's about it for the lineup. All in all, the Pixel 10s are, I gotta say, slightly underwhelming. Like, yeah, the telephoto on the base model, Pixel Snap, the more powerful Tensor G5, and most of the AI features are nice, but on the other end of the spectrum, the overall camera system got a downgrade. Pixel Snap is more of a finally moment rather than a wow moment. The Tensor G5 was extremely worse than what we hoped for, and like half the AI features are gimmicky. And I hate being that negative guy, but that's just the way things are this time. We can eye Apple all we want for no innovation throughout the years, but I'll just say that for once, in Google, I'm disappointed. But all the reasons to get a Pixel are still the reasons to get a Pixel, and all the reasons not to get a Pixel are still all the reasons not to get a Pixel. They've always been less about the numbers and specs and more about the user experience and software. So I'll take my sentence back and say the Pixel 10s are a letdown and a win at the same time. But you didn't come to this video for a split decision, so if you want my final verdict, I'll just say that you shouldn't get it if you have like a Pixel 7 or later, but before that, you'll be pretty happy with your upgrade. And of course, we're probably not all coming from a previous Pixel, so if you like the current ecosystem on your current phone, my advice is just stick with it. Trust your gut. And on that thought, Alex, I'll explain, signing out.